Delta derangement syndrome continues, and it's not just an American phenomenon. Over in Australia, the nation's COVID zero strategy has led people being sent to quarantine camps. I'll break down the latest Fauciite madness from here and abroad in tonight's Hold the Line. Welcome to Hold the Line. I'm Buck Sexton. We've been warning anybody who'll listen for a long time here on this show and on other shows as well, that until people are willing to be reasonable, it's just going to keep getting crazier out there with regard to COVID, lockdowns, mitigation, vaccine mandates, mask policies, all of it. That until we recognize that there's no such thing as a risk-free existence, there will continue to be those who either are so scared, so cowardly when it comes to day-to-day life that they want to be told constantly what to do by this state, or, more to the point, those in the apparatus of control who are going to want to tell everybody else what they can do. Because remember, it's not about keeping yourself safe in the era of COVID. Oh no, they always expand it to if you won't do everything they want, you are a risk to everybody else. You have to mask, you have to vaccinate, you have to social distance, you have to quarantine, all of these things. Because other people doing it for themselves is insufficient, which leads to things like this, where you have the New York Times' Mara Gay on MSNBC saying that, look, you got to protect people from the unvaccinated.
A majority of Americans do actually fear this virus and understand the science. They respect it. They've taken steps to protect themselves and their families, and they have a healthy fear. And I think, part of what needs to shift is we need to understand not only the anxieties of those who are vaccine hesitant or resistant, but we also need to have a healthy respect for everybody, first of all, but also for the lives and health of everybody else, because I think people have a right to be protected from the unvaccinated. And we are not really talking about that. That is a serious concern for millions of Americans.
Protected from the unvaccinated. See, the unvaccinated are a menace in the eyes of the left, including, let's remember, those who have naturally acquired immunity from having beaten the virus, having their immune systems defeat the virus. That still exists. That still goes on. And so why don't they ever get counted in any of this? Why is there no discussion of it? Well, because it doesn't fall into the narrative. The narrative is listen to the state, do whatever the government apparatus of control tells you, or else you are a danger to those around you. Even if you're vaccinated, by the way, you still have to listen to all this crap. It's not like it ever ends. It will never end as long as they can have this power over you. And it's worse in some other places than it is here. We have aerial footage of Howard Springs quarantine camp in Australia. There you go. Does that look like a place where you want to, on pain of arrest, be told you have to spend 2 weeks, stay alone in some shack the government stuffs you in? And this is in Australia, of course. They bring you the food that they want to feed you. They tell you you can't see anybody. You can't even see fellow quarantine folks. You are to stay in your government-mandated shack. What's fascinating is that Australia is doing all this, taking these policies to an extreme, and oh, that's right, they also still have the highest caseload they've ever had. So how well is this stuff working? Well, if you judge any of this by the results, you'll very quickly find it's not working well at all. But don't pay any attention to that. It's not like this country has a lot of Democrats who wish that they could make Australia's policies America's policies, right? Meanwhile, there are only certain states where you'll even hear that there is a COVID surge going on, despite the fact that right now there are more people in hospitals with COVID over this Labor Day weekend to today than there were last year before any vaccines were out there, right? We're in year one of vaccines. You go back a year and you find yourself in a pre-vaccine state. We have more people in the hospital now. How is that possible? Well, don't ask any questions about the policy. Just beat up on red states, even if you're the governor, Democrat governor of a red state like Kentucky's Andy Beshear. Here he is.
Well, our situation is dire. We are setting case records. We have a record number of Kentuckians in the hospital battling COVID, in the ICU battling for their lives. We have a record number of families that are praying for their loved one who is on a ventilator, needing that assistance to breathe.
Do you ever hear about Oregon's caseload? I'm just wondering. Why is it only the red states? I mean, yeah, this is terrible. COVID's a bad, dangerous disease. It does kill people in large numbers. It has been something that's out there for over 18 months now. But why is it so political still? And here's maybe an even better question. What's the way out? How does this end? Because right now, you'll see people go on CNN and they'll tell you, oh, somehow right now, with 200 million people vaccinated in this country, that's the latest update here. I can even pull it up for you. The latest update from the CDC, 207 million people have received at least one dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. 2/3 of America overall. But we're worse now than we were a year ago, according to CNN.
Amid holiday weekend travel and packed stadiums and celebrations, America is acting like the threat from COVID is over, even though the fact is we're actually much worse off than we were a year ago. The 7-day average of new cases up a stunning 300% from Labor Day just last year.
Now, why is that? How is it that it could be the fault? Let's just play this out. How could it be the fault of the unvaccinated, which is what the media will tell you all the time? The red state, not minorities in major cities who are unvaccinated. They don't ever get talked about like this. It's only red state Trump voters who are unvaccinated. How can the current caseload be their fault when a year ago, before there were any vaccines, the caseload was lower? Does that make any sense? Oh, no, but we were supposed to get the shot and then we were done and then everything gets better and then we're all going to be fine. Well, that's not happening. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, for example, is pointing out that Fauci told us the vaccines would be the end of this. We would get to herd immunity through vaccines, not through natural immunity the same way, even though natural immunity is more durable and more all-encompassing. Here's Ron DeSantis saying the Fauci got it wrong again.
If you're going to force vaccine mandates on people, just understand that what the data is showing us about the vaccine. The data is showing us you're much less likely to be hospitalized or die if you're vaccinated. That is true, and I think you see it in the statistics. However, the vaccinations have not created herd immunity. And so if the idea is that having herd immunity, you force everyone to do this, and that will create herd immunity, that has not happened. It's still spreading. People who, I mean, obviously in Florida, we're going down now, which is great, but that's not what the issue is it creating the herd immunity? Fauci also said if 50% were vaccinated, you would not see any surges anymore. Well, that isn't true.
Yeah, Fauci wrong yet again. And the whole immunization, vaccination regime here was built on the promise that you get a shot, you'd be done. That's not true anymore. Now they're saying get the shot again, and maybe then you'll be done, but they can't even tell you. Maybe we start asking some questions here. I think it'd be a better way to go. All right, thousands of college football fans gathered this weekend for the start of the football season, much to the chagrin of the lockdown left. We'll have more on that with Rogan O'Hanley, better known as DC Drano on Instagram. Probably seen his stuff when we come back. Right now, I want to tell you about My Digital Money. Everybody wants to get into crypto these days, Bitcoin, Ethereum, so many digital tokens out there. That's why Colin Plume, CEO of Noble Gold, decided to create My Digital Money. It's an easy-to-use, self-trading crypto IRA platform with amazing customer service, and they'll help you get started if you're brand new to crypto investing. Your comfort and security is their absolute top priority. They've got military-grade security for your coins, trigger orders to help you secure opportunities, and a play money account so you can test things out without actually risking your cash. With the crypto market heating up, this could be a great time to get into this exciting technology-based investment. You deserve a team of dedicated professionals who have your back and treat you like a human. Check them out at mydigitalmoney.com, mydigitalmoney.com. More with Rogan O'Hanley when we come back.
Listen, I get folks want to go back to normal life. They want to go to games, right? I want to go to games. But when you look at crowds like that, you approve of that? Or is that just not smart?
No, I don't think it's smart. I think when you're dealing particularly outdoors is always better than indoors. But even when you have such a congregate setting of people close together, first you should be vaccinated. And when you do have congregate settings, particularly indoors, you should be wearing a mask.
It's not smart. That was Dr. Fauci. Unable to keep quiet while Americans enjoyed the long weekend watching some college football. He wasn't the only one who couldn't stand watching the rest of the country actually have some fun. Blue check marks and media outlets couldn't stop themselves from expressing their horror. Here's what a tweet written by CNN political analyst Joe Lockhart said. Dozens of college football games on TV yesterday with hundreds of thousands of fans in the stadium. Not one word about COVID, risk vaccines, or masks. It's the latest example of how we don't take COVID seriously and the sports media turning a blind eye for profit. Right. Rogan O'Hanley, lawyer and conservative commentator, and the man behind the great DC Drano account on Instagram, joins us to address the lunacy here. Rogan, good to see you, man.
Good to see you too, Buck.
I'm wondering if you're a lawyer as well as a pundit and memester extraordinaire. I'm wondering if you can try to help me understand here what the rules are. So, U.S. Open tennis, because a lot of blue check libs go and like that, that's cool, right? That you can be in close quarters, outside, inside, whatever, doesn't matter. No mask, who cares? But college football, for some reason, triggers the libs. Why is it, Rogan?
Well, let's not forget Obama's giant birthday party in Martha's Vineyard, where everybody was partying without masks. Let's not forget the BLM and Antifa riots all last summer, where not an ounce of COVID risk was discerned by this media. They simply do not want people having fun, living free lives. They want to keep people in fear because they have realized over the last year and a half that when people are in fear, they're easier to control. So the American people, especially young people who are either not at very high risk of mortality from COVID, which is pretty much everyone under the age of 40 without comorbidities, and also people that have been frankly vaccinated or have recovered from COVID and have immunity. They're done living life in fear. We didn't do this for the flu. Why would we continue to lock ourselves indoors for something with a very similar mortality rate? Most of America is over it.
And also, why is college football something that the libs hate so much? I mean, do you think it has anything to do with the chance of, let's say it's Fauci, Joe Biden they're screaming, but it's actually a different F word that has been showing up in front of Joe Biden's name in chants at college football games all over the country? You think that factors in here? And also, have you ever seen anything like that before? It's pretty remarkable.
It's incredible. It gave me chills watching these viral clips of hundreds of thousands of students chanting F Joe Biden, which, for TV we can say is fire Joe Biden. And this is, allegedly the most popular president ever, most votes ever, got more black votes than Obama. How dare anybody question that? And yet we have only 7 months into his term, stadiums across the country filled with young people who typically lean Democrat chanting F Joe Biden. I tend to think this is just the beginning. This is kind of classic rebellious behavior. Young people versus the authoritarian elders. They're doing it again. Love to see it happening.
And let's dive into this a little bit more, Rogan. The ongoing crisis in Afghanistan as a result of the Biden administration's botched withdrawal, as well as Biden's callous attitude toward the families of the 13 service members who lost their lives. Remember the checking the watch issue? After those 13 service members died in that blast outside the Kabul airport, there's been a big tanking of Biden's approval rating as a result of this. I mean, 2020 Biden voters found, this is latest polls that we could pull here, 20% of likely voters said they regretted their choice of likely voters, Biden voters, compared to 76% who did not. Among Democrats, the number was 21% compared to 29% of Republicans who crossed the aisle to vote for Biden and regretted. Voters' remorse, it seems here, Mr. Rogan.
100%. I mean, it's something that a lot of us are just kind of screaming on the inside, we told you so. This was obvious to anyone paying attention that this guy could barely put on his own shoes in the morning without getting help from somebody, never mind commanding our nuclear arsenal and all our military forces. And I think, not only the 13 courageous troops that perished in this debacle of an Afghanistan withdrawal, but not to mention the dozens that are injured and will be affected by this for the rest of their lives. People saw the faces of these soldiers. They were young. A lot of them, frankly, signed up when President Trump was in power. And then now they were sent to their deaths for what? To just get out of there quicker. I mean, we basically equipped one of the biggest armies in the world with how much equipment we left over there. The American people aren't dumb. They know this could not have been handled worse, and these polls are reflecting it. Frankly, I think those numbers are even higher than what's being shown.
Rogan, because you're so effective at satirizing and holding the mirror up to the left, they obviously get very angry at you. But I'm wondering if you could try to tell us, where do you think they're going to go? I mean, I wonder at this point, what could they even pretend Joe Biden has done well? I mean, here, President Biden's job approval rating, how it's going versus how it started versus how it's going between February and September of this past year. We could show people that, I mean, the job approval rating is like in the stock market crash move here. What do you think they're going to, I mean, I'm just wondering if you could war game for us. What's the Democrat line going to be? What, that Joe Biden is not an insurrectionist, and so don't pay attention to the fact that he's declining and incompetent? What do you think this turns into?
I think we're already seeing it. I think Democrats are saying, hey, I'm not affiliated with that guy. Senator Tammy Duckworth wants to bring in people in the Senate Armed Services Committee to question the Iraq withdrawal. Senator Blumenthal from Connecticut, Senator Durbin from Illinois. I mean, his own party is turning against him. And this just isn't something we saw in the Trump era. For the most part, he kept his base almost the entire time. The problem with Joe Biden is no one really likes this guy. He's, been in office for 50 years. He just has a ton of establishment support and a very friendly, supportive media, but they can only do so much when this guy, as Barack Obama once famously said, don't underestimate Joe's ability to F things up. And we're seeing it, plain and clear. He doesn't have someone to hide behind when he hid behind Barack Obama. It's all on him. And so, the truth hurts.
Rogan, a.k.a. DC Drano, please keep crushing the commies with those memes. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Buck.
The Taliban's firmly in control of Afghanistan, and the group is establishing its own interim government. When we come back, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy's Bill Roggio joins us to explain why the new Taliban doesn't look different from the old one we defeated 20 years ago. Not at all, really. First, I want to tell you about an opportunity. If you've ever thought about investing in real estate, I want you to take me up on this recommendation right now. Visit doneforyoubuck.com, where you can learn more about my friends at Done For You Real Estate. Let me make this easy for you. These guys have a way to make real estate investing straightforward, and their system works. I know, because I'm using it. It allows everyday, hardworking Americans like you and me to finally own investment real estate without all the risk and difficulty of starting out on your own. Look, I can't explain quickly enough in this commercial all the things they do for you. So how about this? If you visit doneforyoubuck.com, at the top of the page is a podcast interview I did with Done For You Real Estate, where you can hear my personal experience with their company in my own words. I'll tell you about it in detail, from picking the city, the house, getting the broker, the loan, even getting a tenant in place so I get cash flow coming to me every month. Visit doneforyoubuck.com, listen to the podcast interview, and give my friends a chance to show you what they can do for you. And we'll be right back with more Hold the Line. With the Taliban now in control of Afghanistan, the group has turned to the work of governing. So, I know, believe it or not. Who are the key figures appointed to the new government? Well, they include one of the FBI's most wanted men. Taliban named Mullah Hassan Akhund, an associate of the movement's late founder Mullah Omar, as head of Afghanistan's new government on Tuesday, and Sirajuddin Haqqani, whose organization's on a U.S. terrorism list, as interior minister. Bill Roggio tweeted earlier today, now the Taliban announced its government, it's clear the prevailing wisdom that would be inclusive is dead. When will other canards like it is pragmatic, can govern, wants legitimacy, and will moderate or isn't in its interest to work with Al-Qaeda die? Bill Roggio, senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracy, joins us now to discuss what's really going on here. So let's start with this, Bill. Who's in this new government? The Taliban has announced who is running that country. What do we need to know?
Yeah, this new government is the same as the old government. It's meet the new Taliban, same as the old Taliban. A lot of these guys, there's remember the 5 members of Guantanamo who were exchanged for Bo Bergdahl? 4 of them are in the Taliban government. And the 5th one, he's the Taliban's governor for Khost province, one of the most important provinces in the east. Sirajudin Haqqani, who you had mentioned, he's the head of the Haqqani network, which is part of the Taliban, despite what the White House press secretary and others claim. He is a specially designated global terrorist for his ties to Al Qaeda. He's also the mastermind behind this Taliban offensive. We could go on and on. One of their deputy defense ministers, designated for ties to Al Qaeda. It goes on and on. This is amazing. This is completely unshocking. Remember, we had people telling us, "Oh, the Taliban, they're going to be inclusive. They're going to change. They're going to moderate." Meanwhile, me and my colleague Thomas Jocelyn were saying, "Look, what you're going to see here is the same old Taliban. You're going to have the same leaders that led this offensive, that have fought for the past 20 years to restore the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. They're going to be put in charge." And a fun fact about the Taliban's emir, it's the same as their old emir. His name is Mullah Habibullah Akhundzada. His son was a suicide bomber in 2017. He attacked Afghan troops in Helmand province. So if you think the Taliban might be a little bit moderate, it's not happening.
Now we've got also reports out there, Bill, of some of those released or exchanged senior level Taliban folks have essentially been recycled back into leadership roles with this new Taliban government. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's the part of the Taliban Five. Those were former Gitmo detainees. Karyakula Fazil, who was the Taliban's deputy defense minister back in 2001. He's their deputy in 2001 again. These guys they're nasty individuals, most tied to Al Qaeda. Karyakula, who I mentioned earlier, he was the Taliban's governor in Herat back in 2001. And prior to that, he killed thousands, slaughtered thousands of Hazara. This is what the new moderate Taliban that people like General McKenzie, the commander of CENTCOM, have described as our Afghan partners. They're not my partner. I know they're not your partner, Buck, but this is what we're dealing with in Washington these days.
What would it look like if how do you think we'll see this Al Qaeda Taliban relationship play out? I mean, what's the likeliest scenario in your mind? Because right now we're all being told, oh, well, it wouldn't be in their interest. Pragmatic Taliban isn't going to host Al Qaeda. Well, the Russians don't necessarily invade a country. They just have people who happen to be speaking Russian, who are paramilitaries, pretending to be insurgents in a province where there's a lot of Russian speakers and declaring what are the ways that the Taliban is going to, that Al Qaeda is going to seep in here?
It already has seeped in. So, for instance, Sirajudin Haqqani, he's now the interior minister. He was the deputy emir. The Taliban hasn't named deputy emirs in this government. The interior ministry is going to be one of the most powerful figures. So he's designated as a designated global terrorist by the United States and the United Nations for his ties to Al Qaeda. A recent United Nations report called him a Taliban leader. There's another one, Qari Fasihuddin. He's a deputy defense minister for the Taliban as well. He led the Taliban's push in the north. He's the man responsible, we discussed earlier on your shows, about the Taliban's northern offensive and how they integrated these various disparate jihadist groups that are Al Qaeda linked, basically Al Qaeda affiliates in the stands. He's a senior member. The Al Qaeda Taliban relationship has remained strong over 20 years, and the Al Qaeda is being rewarded by having these. The U.S. military used to call them dual-hatted Taliban al-Qaeda leaders, and that's what they are, and they are imbued in the Taliban senior leadership. You get no better effect for the Taliban or if you're al-Qaeda when you know your allies are in the top levels of the new Taliban government.
Also want to see, Bill, if you could give us an update on what we know at this point about Americans who have been left behind. Chuck Schumer saying every American that wanted out is out. Watch this.
How will what happened affect Democrats' chances moving into the midterms?
I can't predict that. I will say there'll be a job for congressional oversight. There always is. But at the moment, actually, I'm still focused on trying to get some of those brave Afghans out. The Americans, all of whom wanted to come out, have come out, praise God. But there are a lot of Afghans who risked their lives for our soldiers and others. Many got out, some didn't. And I'm still working on trying to get some of them out.
So, is that, Bill, that doesn't seem right.
It's completely untrue. Dare I say it's a lie? I'm aware of scores of Americans in Kabul, who are trying to get out. There's been press reporting that the Taliban are blocking Americans on the tarmac. I believe it was in Herat, or it might have been Mazari Sharif, that are trying to get out. There were 19 there. So I'm not sure where he's getting those numbers. Even the Biden administration says that 1 to 200 Americans who want to leave are being blocked. I'm told that number is closer to 1,000, possibly over, and I wouldn't doubt it. So yeah, I'm not sure where Chuck Schumer is getting his numbers, but they're not accurate.
We have an American, Nasria, who's one of the 100 to 200 Americans they say that are stuck. Here's what she says.
There's been days where, I think to myself, like, am I going to make it home? Am I going to end up living here? Am I going to end up dying here? What's going to happen? It was so hard to just get on a flight. There was a couple of days where we had to sleep on streets. People were literally stepping over people. That's how bad it was. Go to a certain location, you will be picked up. And this is from the State Department. You will get picked up. Go there. And it was in the middle of the road across the airport. So we went there, waited an extra 12 to 13 hours with no food, no water, nothing.
Seems like the Biden administration is almost apathetic about the fact there's still Americans there. What do you expect them to do in the weeks ahead?
I think you're right. Apathetic is right. I was told that this is by Americans that were in Afghanistan the day prior to the withdrawal, that all communications, they were stopped receiving communications from the State Department. They basically have been abandoned. I think the Biden administration really just hopes this issue dies, it goes away, and it will go away if the press leaves it alone. But when these Americans come home, they're going to start telling their stories. And these stories will resonate. And it's going to be pretty embarrassing for administration officials when stories like the one we just heard, and I've heard numerous stories. I helped one American family get out that with 3 small children, 8, 5, and 4, who ran the gauntlet to the airport 3 times before they made it through. These stories will start coming out, and the administration is not going to look good for it. They should just be honest about what happened, about what is happening. I think this administration it's going to try to negotiate with the Taliban, possibly recognize them, possibly give them the money that's in those banks, remove people from the designations list, because that's something the Taliban really wants so they can do business overseas and their leaders can travel. I suspect we might see things like that happen in order to get those remaining Americans home.
Bill, always appreciate the expertise. Because of things in Afghanistan, we'll have to have you back soon. So thanks for being with us.
Yeah. Thanks, Bob.
The Department of Justice is taking aim at Texas's SB 8, which prohibits abortions after a heartbeat can be detected in the preborn baby. We'll have more on that with Danielle D'Souza Gill when we come back. But first, I want to remind you about my friends at My Digital Money. The crypto market's hot right now, but it's not easy to get started if you've never done it before. That's where My Digital Money comes in. This is an easy-to-use, self-trading crypto IRA platform with great customer service. It's one of the few companies out there that does cryptocurrency that'll really help you get started, and your comfort and security is their top priority. They've got an unparalleled military-grade security for your coins. They've got trigger orders to help you secure those gains or limit your losses, and a play money account so you can try it out without actually risking money. See how you do in crypto when you're not really putting real skin in the game. Cryptocurrencies are heading for all-time highs again for a lot of folks, and so this could be the best time to get into this exciting technology-based investment. When it comes to your money, you deserve a team of dedicated professionals who speak to you honestly and treat you like a human. Check them out at mydigitalmoney.com. That's mydigitalmoney.com. The Justice Department is vowing to protect abortion seekers in Texas after a new state law allows private citizens to enforce the ban. The new law prohibits abortions once cardiac activity, heartbeat, can be detected, which is usually around 6 weeks. This as the Portland City Council votes tomorrow on an emergency resolution to halt trade and travel with Texas as a result of the abortion outrage on the left. Joining me now with reaction, Danielle D'Souza, host of Counterculture with Danielle D'Souza Gill. Danielle D'Souza Gill, good to see you.
Thank you so much, Buck.
First off, what is with these other states taking action here against Texas? It seems like they're not big believers in federalism.
No, they're not. And even when it comes to these other states, they really just want to punish Texas. They want to make it so that, Texas is the big bad state that's, the crazy ones who want to control women's bodies and so on. But I think it's been really encouraging that the Supreme Court did not issue this injunction, because it's showing us that maybe they do want to start sending things back to the states. And maybe they do think that the people who vote and elect their officials should be able to decide what kind of state they live in.
The Portland mayor put out a press release, speaking of Portland again. This halt will be in effect. This is for halting trade with Texas until the state of Texas withdraws its unconstitutional ban on abortion or until it is overturned in court. This law does not demonstrate concern for the health, safety, and well-being of those who may become pregnant. This law, also known as women, I think, by the way, people who may become pregnant. This law does not recognize or show respect for the human rights of those who may women who may become pregnant. This law rewards private individuals for exercising surveillance and control over others' bodies, violates separation of church and state. It'll force people to carry pregnancies against their will. I mean, Danielle, there is a very clear, first of all, I think it was Ted Cruz who pointed out that, what does this mean? Like, Antifa is not going to go vacation in Texas. I don't think Texas is scared about Portland not hanging out there. But there's a very clear psychosis that emerges the moment absolutism in abortion is challenged at all. The left has got a problem.
Absolutely. Texas, first of all, isn't going to be hurt at all by this. They have one of the largest economies in the country and also the world. And Portland, it's really just a tiny place. And even as you said, the left freaks out anytime you have any limit on abortion, whether that's the heartbeat or even in Mississippi, when we look at that case that the Supreme Court is taking up, theirs is 15 weeks. So you have about 4 months to decide if you want an abortion. So for the left to freak out even over that, to them, any limit is too much. So for them, 9-month abortion is what they're going to keep advocating for, late-term abortion. So it doesn't matter what limit you pick, they're always going to push back against it.
Texas SB 8 will impair women's access to health care, according to Joe Biden today. This is from a tweet of his. And outrageously deputizes private citizens to sue those they believe helped another person get a banned abortion. It's a blatant violation of the rights established under Roe v. Wade. We will protect and defend the right. What does that mean? If the Supreme Court is saying they're not stepping in on the merits here to stop this, the Texas law stands. So do we have any sense of what the federal government, what the Biden administration plans to do to effectively, nullify the state law that they're not supposed to be able to nullify? Well, what's the plan here?
I really don't think there's anything that they can do, because even with the Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade makes it so that the state cannot stop you. The state cannot interfere. And so Texas really found a very clever workaround to make it so that it's not the state that's stopping you. It's actually private individuals. They're basically empowering other people to say, hey, abortionists, we can sue you. They now have this liability, these abortion clinics like Planned Parenthood. And so if the Supreme Court can't interfere, which is pretty much what they said we cannot interfere in this. I don't think there's anything that Biden can do to interfere. Governor Abbott and the state elected officials, they're going to uphold the law, and the federal government really has no place involved in this at all, in restricting a private citizen.
Last week, Jen Psaki was asked about this one. I wanted to get your reaction. Here's her take.
Why does the president support abortion when his own Catholic faith teaches abortion is morally wrong?
Well, he believes that it's a woman's right, it's a woman's body, and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions, and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing. The president believes their rights should be respected.
It's fascinating, Danielle, that when Democrats talk about this issue, they become so snide, but so ridiculous at the same time. They always speak in these very vague and general, about a woman's bodily autonomy and rights of choice. It's abortion. Why can't they even just talk about what we're talking about?
Exactly. It's so rude. She's acting as if a man can't ask this question, as if this only affects women, when in fact many men do lose their children because they have no say in this matter and would be happy to actually raise the child. But even aside from that, it is not the woman's body, it is the child's body. And we can see this from an abortion when we see the body parts that are all gathered together after an abortion and are disposed of. They are the child's body parts. They are not the woman's body parts. And their heartbeat that is beating on its own, pumping its own blood with with its own unique DNA, that is not the woman's body. So if she wants to control her own body, then that is her decision. But this is obviously another human life.
It's stunning to see how mobilized the left is on this issue, Danielle. What are your expectations? This is making its way, this issue right now. Just really, Roe is going to be on the court's docket in a sense, or Roe and Casey and all this abortion law that's been built on lies over decades. The lie that there's a constitutional right to an abortion, which there clearly is not. Even pro-abortion legal scholars who are honest will admit there's no constitutional right to an abortion. But I worry the left is going to get increasingly desperate at the possibility that their favorite fake constitutional right will be taken away from them.
Well, Rachel Maddow said on her show that the day Roe v. Wade is gone is here. So they basically think Roe v. Wade is already gone anyway. And this law has actually been in effect for a little while now, and everyone's fine. Everyone's doing great. So actually a Roe v. Wade America, or at least a post Roe v. Wade America, is basically what people are living in Texas. And so I think that, they're acting like, oh my gosh, it'll be the end of the world if the Supreme Court overturns Roe. But actually we see exactly what would happen if Roe was overturned. It's how things are right now in Texas.
It does seem remarkable as we have, Danielle, the court composition as it stands right now in the Supreme Court, that I think it's very easy to make a case that President Donald Trump may have been the most consequential president for the pro-life movement since the legal monstrosity of Roe.
Absolutely. I think we know that Clarence Thomas, Justice Alito, they will likely vote to overturn Roe. Clarence Thomas has written about the racism of abortion, and Margaret Sanger, how she was a eugenics advocate, and that's why she started Planned Parenthood. So I think it'll be interesting to see how these new judges like Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Barrett rule on this, and it will really be up to them because, Chief Justice Roberts will likely vote with the liberals as he has on abortion in the past.
Danielle, thanks so much for being with us. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
The mother of a Las Vegas 9-year-old boy is demanding his substitute teacher be fired after she says the teacher taped a mask to her son's face when he didn't wear it properly in the classroom. We'll have all the details coming up in tonight's Quick Hits. But first, if you're like me, you have to start your day with some caffeine, and that means Black Rifle Coffee. This is the most delicious coffee you'll get anywhere, and it's a veteran-owned coffee company that serves coffee to people who love America. They develop their coffee with the same mission focus they learned while serving our great nation. With every purchase you make, Black Rifle gives back. In 2020, they donated over 6 million cups of coffee to veteran law enforcement and first responder causes. Their high-quality beans are imported all the way from Colombia and Brazil. They're then roasted carefully at facilities right here in the States. They've got a signature roast called Lava Panther that's directly sourced from a small farm in Guatemala. So although the temperatures are cooling off, don't forget to keep enjoying the great outdoors fueled by Black Rifle Coffee. And the best way to do that? The Black Rifle Coffee Club. When you join, your chosen brew is roasted, packaged, and shipped to your door. You'll also get special discounts on roasts and gain access to exclusive products and much more. Purchase at blackriflecoffee.com/Buck and use code BUCK at checkout for 20% off your purchase and your first coffee club order. We'll be right back with tonight's Quick Hits. Joe Rogan claps back at the mainstream media's lies about his COVID diagnosis and ivermectin. And New York City's Mayor Bill de Blasio admitted he is absolutely considering future political office, which could include running for governor next year. Oh yeah, it is time for Quick Hits. Let's start with this. Joe Rogan, probably the biggest podcaster in America, got a huge audience, and he recently got COVID. And as part of his regimen to try to get over COVID as quickly as possible, he did a whole bunch of things. Took monoclonal antibodies, tried a bunch of different modalities, but among them was ivermectin, which is a well-known antiparasitic that is particularly effective for humans, not just for horses, despite all the crap you see in the media about that, against parasites, particularly a form of river blindness. So Joe Rogan, anyway, he took ivermectin, and he's just like, why are people lying about me and what I did here? And he's saying maybe he has to sue CNN so they stop acting like such clowns.
Well. If it isn't old horseworm Rogan. I'm glad you're well, man.
Bro, do I have to sue CNN?
I don't know, do you?
They're making shit up. They keep saying I'm taking horse dewormer. I literally got it from a doctor. It's an American company.
Mm-hmm.
They won the Nobel Prize in 2015 for use on human beings.
Yeah.
And CNN is saying I'm taking horse dewormer.
Yeah, what? So
they must know that that's a lie.
There's a lot of people saying it.
Right, but a lot of people can say it.
Okay.
Like the internet says it. Who cares?
Sure,
but CNN is saying it. Like Jim Acosta.
Yes, CNN is full of liars. CNN lies as a network. It's a dishonest place full of dishonest people who are pushing an agenda under the pretense that they are journalists. But I don't know, maybe Rogan should sue them. He should certainly continue to call them out because they're just lying. It's very obvious what's going on. Our New York Post article here, teacher accused of taping a face mask on a humiliated 9-year-old student. A furious Las Vegas mom is calling for the resignation of a substitute teacher who allegedly taped a face mask to her 9-year-old son. The situation began after the 4th grader neglected to don his face mask after getting up to grab a drink of water. Instead of simply telling him to put it back on, the female teacher pulled him up in front of the classroom and taped the mask across the top of his face. The distraught mother claimed all of this and added that this caused the boy's classmates to burst out laughing. The educator also reportedly slapped a second layer of adhesive to the top of the boy's forehead, taping a mask to a 9-year-old's face. Because, yeah, that's the science. That's what they'll tell you. This is what happens to people when they lose their rationality and their humanity in the service of the mob, of the herd, like a whole bunch of cows all getting together, mooing, and thinking that they're doing something good for humanity and society. It's disgraceful. But mask maniacs are now really in the midst of what is a religious ritual. That's what masking has turned into. It is no longer about stopping a virus. Here is something else that you can expect here. The Democrats are doing everything they can to make sure that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, does not get recalled. And that, because that's going to look pretty bad, right? You have the two biggest blue states, New York and California, will, over the course of COVID, both have lost their governors. One to resignation. I know not because of COVID, but it should have been because of COVID, but because he's, sexually harassing people. And then Newsom, well, just because he's bad at his job, but a large part of that has been COVID related. So they're pulling out the big guns, so to speak, I guess. Joe Biden is going to travel to California to campaign for Newsom ahead of the recall vote. And President Biden will travel early next week, according to, Biden folks, to campaign for Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom. Ahead of the September 14th recall election, Biden's visit would come in the final hours of an election in which most of the voting is expected to be done by mail. So, also you've got Vice President Kamala Harris, who's traveling to her home state this week, campaign for Newsom. I wonder if Newsom even wants her to. I wonder if Newsom even thinks that Kamala Harris is effective as a spokesperson for his cause. The cause of Gavin Newsom, of course, is just Gavin Newsom. It's keeping his job. Other high-profile Democrats who are going to be out there on the stump for Newsom include Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren and Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar. They've been out there, too, doing the stuff that they do. Speaking of running for office, just when you thought we might all be free of Bill de Blasio, the worst mayor in America, maybe the worst mayor in the world, I don't know. It's probably a case you could make. He's running for governor, maybe, he says, in 2022.
The politics, that's next year. That's a whole other world. But look, I believe in public service. I've done it my whole life. I want to keep working on crucial issues and causes, particularly care about things like education for our kids. We still have a long way to go on that. These are the kinds of things I'm going to devote myself to. So we'll see what the future brings.
So fair to say you're at least considering the run?
Willie, I want to keep serving in one way or another in the future. So I'm going to look at different options. Absolutely.
Just when you thought couldn't get any worse, New York. Oh, it can. That's it for tonight's Hold the Line. The No Spin News, Bill O'Reilly's up next. Shields high.